Welcome to the Strangely Dead Podcast Episode 2, The Non-Rain Phenomenon. Rain is water, evaporated into the clouds, until they burst and fall back to the earth again. But did you know meat has rained down? How about blobs of gelatinous goo of different color, and sometimes odor? If not, strap in as I discuss the non-rain phenomenon. I'm pretty sure I don't have to explain what rain is. It's something I learned in second grade, I believe. It can ruin a planned outside activity or make us sleepy as it hits our roofs. However it comes, we know what it is. Most of the time. In August of 1994, in the wee hours of the morning, Oakville, Washington experienced a strange phenomenon of blobs, raining down, over a span of 3 weeks. Starting on August 3, Officer David Lacey and his partner witnessed a clear jelly-like substance begin to fall from the sky. They had stopped for gas, and upon exiting the store they noticed the bizarre rain. During an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, Officer Lacey recalled it felt like jello and was very mushy. When they turned the wipers on, the strange substance smeared across the windshield, making visibility almost impossible. They wouldn't be the only ones to see the raining blobs. Oakville was an extremely small town with a population of 665 at the time. One resident noticed the blob rain after going out to her back porch. It was no bigger than a grain of rice and covered everything. She described the jelly-like rain identical to the 2 cops and others in town. It was clear, odorless, gelatin-type texture. 5 times over the next 3 weeks these jello-like globs would rain over Oakville, Washington, over a 20-square-mile radius. But not long after its first appearance, citizens began experiencing flu-like symptoms. Reports of animals dying was also reported. Oddly, only people who either touched or were in very close contact with the blobs got sick. The most severe cases were those who actually touched it. Some samples were sent to Washington State Department of Health. Their analysis was it contained 2 bacteria that were non-harmful. However, a microbiologist hired by Unsolved Mysteries found Pseudomonas fluorescens bacteria that is increasingly becoming resistant to antibiotics and can cause pneumonia or sepsis. He also found Enterobacteria cloacae, which can cause urinary tract or respiratory tract infection. These illnesses are similar to what the citizens of Oakville had. Enterobacteria cloacae was found in a 2012 study. Mice given the germ became obese while the ones not given the germ didn't, making a possible link between the germ and the digestive system. The clear blobs were found to contain several cells, with none containing a nucleus. Just the following year, in September of 1997 in Everett, Washington, the same kind of goo fell from the sky. However, only for 1 day. This isn't the first time blobs have fallen in place of traditional rain. As early as 1641, Sir John Suckling wrote a poem of a falling star leaving jelly behind. He wasn't the only one. Quite a few writers since him have written about the phenomenon. While it's happened before, not all experiences are the same. In November 1846, Louville, NY, foul-smelling clear blobs fell, then quickly evaporated. 1950, Philadelphia, dome-shaped jelly, described as quivering, odorless sticky scum. August 1979, Frisco, TX, a woman reported purple goo raining on her property. Although not confirmed, authorities claimed it came from a battery factory. She was told to simply hose it off her lawn. December 1983, Worth, Reading, Massachusetts, a gray-white oily gelatinous blobs rained from above. November 1996, Kempton, Tasmania, clear slime fell. Autumn of 2009, in Scotland, clear blobs again. In Dorset, January 2012, blue blobs were reported. Also, they fell in Ham Wall, England in 2013. This is just a few examples of the jelly rain. One explanation for the blobs, specifically for the Oakville blobs, was the Air Force testing bombs 50 miles away in the Pacific Ocean. The theory is jellyfish, mashed up from the exploding bomb, had somehow gotten in the atmosphere, then fell back down over Oakville. This was never confirmed. 2. Star jelly, also goes by astral jelly and astromyxin. Although it's never been confirmed exactly what it is, many biologists believe it's the remains of frogs, toads, worms, or byproduct of cyanobacteria. Is described as gelatinous, color varying from clear to a grayish white, and evaporates very quickly. A sample of the star jelly was sent to the National History Museum of London in January of 2015. It was found to be frog remains. This was not samples from Oakville. While star jelly can explain a couple of the blob rains, it doesn't explain them all. Some are entirely unique in its consistency, different color, odorless with odor, shape and size. 3. Along with the jellyfish theory, it was suggested maybe it was waste from an commercial airplane. This too was ruled out as it would be blue and couldn't have mimicked rain. I did find it odd that Washington State had two experiences with this jelly rain, a little over a year apart. I didn't find any incidents of these blobs happening around the same area that close together. So what was the jelly rain in Oakville, Washington? And across the world, how are they the same in certain aspects and different in others? Although I didn't dig deep in other areas of sickness due to the blobs other than in Oakville. But also nothing came up in top searches other than Oakville. Is the flu-like sickness and dead animals unique to Oakville? What do you think? Let me know below. This last case had far less information on it than the jelly rain. The only story I could get information on is an incident from my home state of Kentucky in March 1876. I'm talking about the raining meat. Now I can find stories of dead and sometimes alive animals raining down. But meat, actual cubed meat, I couldn't. On March 3, 1876 in Olympia Springs, Kentucky, Alan Couch's wife was making soap. Around 40 or so steps from her porch around 11 a.m. chunks of 2 inches by 2 inches meat began falling like rain, making thud noises as it hit. She wasn't the only one to experience the meat rain. It rained for an hour, until 12 p.m. Alan commented to his wife that it was a sign from God. For unknown reason, some actually tasted the meat. While it looked like beef, it was said to taste of wild game like venison. It was also theorized to be from lamb, deer, bear, and also, the most troubling theory, human. Samples from Kentucky were sent to Dr. Alan Hamilton at Newark Scientific Association. He found the meat to be lung tissue from a horse or human infant. He stated lung tissue from infants and deer are almost identical and were hard to tell apart in the samples. Further analysis from this and more samples found more lung tissue, 3 muscle tissues and 2 cartilage tissue. 9 days later in London, England, on March 12, 1876, meat rained down on the town. It was described as flattened, said was caused by pressure, and dry. The people of London called it red corpuscles with vegetables. As I said, these were the only 2 incidents of meat rain I could find. Even the details of the London rain were mostly woven in with the Kentucky case and not much information on either one. Now you can find countless tales of animals falling from the sky. One such case is from 1749 France. French soldiers claimed to witness frogs falling alongside a heavy downpour. Some theorize that tornadoes and water spouts pick up animals, then when they disappear the animals then rain down. Hilariously, this theory inspired the makers of the Sharknado movies. Movies whose plots mostly center around storms causing strong tornadoes that pick up sharks, alive, then drop them on unsuspecting people running from the chaos. This is also how some think jellyfish are picked up and cause jelly rain. Although I couldn't find any incidents where a storm, much less a tornado, preceded the jelly-like rain. If anything, it was regular rain that came before. But even if these animalnados can explain raining frogs, fish or small birds, they don't explain cubed meat. Nor the lack of animal carcasses. Another more popular theory of the time and now is vomit. Sorry, I had to go there. Apparently this was an occasional problem in ye olden days. Vultures were known to sometimes overeat then regurgitate their meal mid-flight. This was especially the accepted answer for the London meat rain that occurred a week and a half after the Kentucky incident. It was the reason given for the flat, dry, vegetable look of the meat. Again, though, I didn't find anybody claiming to see vultures during either incident. But it being the 1800s, testimony might and probably was lost along the way. But curiously, I also didn't find tons of vultures vomiting their lunch up on the people below. Then or now. As many people post videos of birds pooping on themselves or others, you'd think I'd find something on birds causing chunks of meat to fall. But I haven't found that side of the internet, yet haha. Other than sick vultures and tornadoes, there isn't any explanations I could find. For me, what piqued my curiosity was the lack of not only carcasses but also the lack of fur. Again, these details could have gotten lost in the shuffle, misheard and mistold over a 200-year game of telephone. However, I can't help but notice also the lack of other meat rains. If tornadoes or a vulture's digestive system can cause cubed up meat, why hasn't it happened again? If we were looking for logical answers, these two stories don't help. While most believe the vulture theory, things are missing. And in incidents of raining animals, it's for the most parts whole animals. You'd be able to tell if it was a fish, bird, whatever animal it was. No one would need to taste test it to find out. What are your thoughts? Were the people of Kentucky and London just victims of vultures' upset stomachs? Is it possible some details have been lost over the years and it was a case of a tornado picking up small animals in its path? Or do you have your own theory? Tell me below. Thanks for listening to episode 2, the non-rain phenomenon of the Strangely Dead podcast. Have a strange day.